Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name is Tom. Thank you for joining me. When we moved into this house in the summer of 2022, we sort of knew what we were getting ourselves into when it came to our heating and cooling systems. So this house, I'm going to walk away a little bit here. This house has two levels, as you can see behind me. And there's a bird on the roof right there saying hello to us. But this house has two levels. So the lower level is the main living area, and then the white part up there is actually where my office is. It was originally designed, the upstairs, designed to be the master bedroom, and then there were 3 bedrooms on the first level that, along with the living room, kitchen, dining room, and so on and so forth, were supposed to be cooled and heated by this gas package unit. Now, as you can see, this baby's got some mileage on her. And by some mileage, I mean she's pushing 20 years. We had some issues, I guess it was last week, with it, where, the temp started dropping here in South Carolina. In fact, if you look out towards the water, you can kind of see steam coming off the water. But we had an issue with this when we ran the heater for the first time. It actually ran really well at night until kind of the mid-morning hours, somewhere around 10, 11. I noticed that the thermostat was actually powered off. So for those who don't know, these systems are actually kind of designed for the old school thermostats, not the digital ones like I use. And because the wiring in here is done in a way where it'll just turn the whole system off if there's an issue, the thermostat just went blank, and I kind of looked at it and thought, oh, that ain't good. So that's where the investigation started. So to kind of briefly sum it up, this half of the unit on this side is the heater. There's a heat exchanger in here, the gas inlet, the gas pipe with the inlet, as well as the exhaust is on this side, and then the air conditioning is on that side. And they both kind of are in this packaged unit, so that way you could literally separate the unit from the house and pull it out. Obviously disconnect the gas line and the power, and then you can pull the whole unit out and replace it. That's why they call it a package, because everything's in here. There's no system inside, like the air handler or everything. Actually, the little blower fan's in the back of this, on this side. So I had a friend come out that I met after moving out here. He took this apart because he studied a little bit of air conditioning, and he had a look at it. He ran all the voltage diagnostics, to see what was getting power, what wasn't. And it turns out that right up here towards the top in the middle is a temperature safety switch. That safety switch, or rollover switch, or whatever you want to call it, has a maximum rating of 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm trying to remember this from the top of my head. But yes, it has a maximum rating of 300 degrees. And what happens is, when this little enclosure up here gets up to 300 degrees, that switch is designed to cut off basically the entire system. It prevents the system from melting down in case of, runaway or whatever. If the system doesn't turn off and keeps cooking, it'll at some point obviously exceed its operating temperature, and it'll fail catastrophically, potentially. So there is a reset on that switch that allows you to essentially toggle that switch off and on. And if you reset it, it brings power back, and it'll run probably for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then boom, it'll cut off again. Now, if you do this during the night when it's really cold out here, it'll run. But the problem is that upon further investigation, there's a heat exchanger in here where the air from the house runs over it runs over it and it absorbs the cold air and takes in heat into the house. Obviously, that's not the scientific method, but it explains it in 5 words or less. And we found that there are cracks in the heat exchanger. Now here's the problem. This unit is kind of a 2-piece system. So you have the air coming in from the return in the house out here to run over this heat exchanger, which is hot when it's running, and then the warm air goes back in through the blower that's back here, right? So in a nutshell, the heat exchangers here, there's kind of a flamethrower here, and there's like a shell of metal, I think it's aluminum, that the air runs over, it gets hot, and then it gets put back into the house where it'll be blown through the ductwork through the fan that's right here. There's a squirrel cage fan. The problem is that this heat exchanger is cracked. You have, natural gas coming in through this line, goes in, and it's burning, obviously, and the hot air goes through the thing, and then it gets sucked out via another fan out this exhaust. So in theory, all the fumes and exhaust come out of this little doohickey here. I think there's supposed to be a flap here, but I guess it's rusted out, so no animals can get in. Anyway, if that heat exchanger is cracked, you're not exhausting all your gas through here anymore. You are exhausting your gas through the house, because that hot air is now making its way into the squirrel cage fan. Instead of coming back out here, there's a higher risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. So obviously you can fix it. You need to know how to weld aluminum, which I don't, and I'm not gearing up to tear this thing apart. Actually, what's ultimately going to end up happening today is this unit is going to be replaced. But I have a bonus for you. We don't only have one system here, we have 2. In fact, the other one you've heard in the background of a lot of the other videos, because it is a noisy boy. But I am going to show you. And that is this guy. So, as you can see, this guy's seen some years as well. High mileage unit. So this unit and the unit out there share the same, lineage in terms of time. They've both been here for about 20 years. In fact, if I take a step back, I'm going to explain why there's a piece of wood right here. So, in preparation for Hurricane Ian, I was honestly expecting the rains to be so heavy that the slope of this was going to wear down even more than it did. You can kind of see there's some grass missing under our chairs. And, this is a pretty steep downhill slope to the reservoir there. But it doesn't take a scientist to know that air conditioner is in trouble. The pad is not only warped, but it's also sinking in a way. It's not level at all. You can kind of see my efforts to level it out, and this was kind of an extreme way of me making sure that this air conditioner didn't slide down the hill. Now obviously it wouldn't have slid down the hill, but I figure the less stress we can put on the copper tubes back here, the better. So I kind of nailed this guy in to hold it up. The rocks and the bricks down there are to level it out, and it's actually doing pretty well. But the problem is this baby, almost 20 years old. That baby, almost 20 years old. We know that one has an issue. This one, honestly, it works. This is a heat pump too, so this guy, its sole purpose is for cooling and heating that part of the house, so my office. And I don't have the heater on because I have racks of equipment in my office that keep the temperature kind of stable. But this guy, if it fails, especially during the summertime or when it gets warmer, I'm in trouble, especially with the humidity around here. I don't want, I don't want equipment failures because I don't have a functioning air conditioner. So because this one has issues, and potentially the heat exchanger itself was going to cost us $2,000 to replace, just the part. So you can imagine that it doesn't make any sense for me to just repair a 20-year-old unit with a $2,000 part plus potentially another $1,000 or $2,000 of labor. I just bought a new unit for $4,000. So that's kind of what the thought was. And I talked to my wife about it, and we figured, you know what? Since this one's having problems, this one does not have problems, we're going to replace them both. Because we don't know what the history of them is. In fact, whoever maintained them before we bought the house this year, whoever maintained them actually wrote here kind of what the services were. So, and this is kind of a 438A system, but the last date on this is May 13th of 2018. So we don't know what, if anything, was done to it over the last 4 years. Now, I hired a guy that lives kind of, not very close to us, but closer towards Columbia, South Carolina. And he came out in the summertime, and he, cleaned these out, did very deep maintenance on them. And, we had no clue what the heating condition was going to be like, because when it's 100 degrees outside, you're not heating. But the inspector tested the heater, but I let him know that he potentially was sitting in carbon monoxide poisoning when he was running the test, because had he ran that heater, even for a few minutes, the carbon monoxide levels in the house would have gone up. Maybe not enough to kill you, but that's what, is so critical about that unit. And actually, I think that's also why a lot of places around here prefer the gas package units to be outside of the house, so that way you're not burning fumes inside the house, even though you have duct work and ventilation and stuff like that, like we did in California. But here, everybody I know down the street here has a gas package unit. So this, on the other hand, is a heat pump. I kind of nodded to that a minute ago. And essentially what a heat pump is it's an air conditioner that has a reverser valve in it, that when the thermostat calls for heat, it reverses the flow of the refrigerant inside the system. It actually runs it backwards. And the hot refrigerant out of the compressor goes through the coils, the evaporator coils up in the attic. In this case, this is a split system, right? So it's got the condenser out here and the evaporators up in the attic of this part of the house. And when you reverse the flow of the refrigerant gas, it heats the coils in the evaporator, and then you get warm air coming through the system upstairs. So it's kind of cool, but I'm not sure if it's efficiency. I'm not sure if there's pros and cons to it. I know units like this guzzle a lot of juice. They are 240 volt systems. So I'm assuming that running a heat pump like this is going to be an energy hog all year round. Whereas a gas package unit like that one, is using gas to heat up a heat exchanger, and there's minimal power going to the air handler to blow air into the house. So I assume that one's more heat efficient. It also heats up quicker. That heater is 100,000 BTUs, and as far as the scaling goes for this house, we calculated it out as needing only 80,000. So that's overkill for this house in terms of heating, and it's actually underscaled for the cooling. So there's two separate ratings for that unit. This guy is a 2-ton heat pump. That's it. So I have 2 tons of cooling and slash heating for the upstairs. During the summertime, it has a hard time keeping up with the heat, because one of the things I will show you is that all four sides of that room are exposed to the elements. So you can see this is the south wall here. This is the east wall with the sunrise rising behind me. And then you have the other two walls right here with the moon in the background there. And then the west wall, which is on the other side. They're all open to the elements, which means if it's hot outside, all four walls are essentially heating the house. And I'm not sure of the construction. I doubt it's brick, but I gotta remember to not face you guys to the sun, blow out the video. But so I don't know what the construction of that is, but suffice it to say that this thing runs probably 90% of the day when it's hot. So it is what it is. Hopefully the new unit will be able to operate a little bit more effectively and efficiently, and we'll see what happens. So today, I think I'm going to set up a time lapse, because I don't want to necessarily record somebody without their permission. But that's pretty much what's happening today. We're going to get both of these units replaced, and hopefully at the end of the day, there'll be something to, something to talk about. But yeah, so while these guys are doing this work, I'm going to try to square away the condition of my office. In fact, here you can see all four sides. So this is the north side, and this triangle part right here on the side is the west side. So when the sun is setting this way, that part gets really hot, and that is actually the part, that little window up there that's covered in aluminum foil. I had to do that because of how much sun comes through in the afternoon when the sun is setting. Super hot in there. So I put a layer of aluminum foil to keep the sun out, and it dropped the amount of the amount of temperature rise that side of the house gets, or that side of that room gets, by about 20 degrees. So it's very significant when it comes to paying for cooling and you have a fireball coming through the window. So took care of that. I also put foil on this one to kind of reflect the heat out. This one's only half, so I can still have some daylight coming into the room, because I noticed that if I'm in a completely pitch black room, I lose perspective of time much quicker than if I had it, open. This one's completely closed too, because the sunrises in the summertime are hot, and they're also more direct, because I think the sun rises over here and it's much brighter and stronger, and all that sunlight goes in and it just heats up the walls on the opposite side of the room. So yeah, we knew going into this that there was going to be the potential for having to replace both of these units. I thought maybe we had some time, because the HVAC inspector that came in, he apparently ran the units, but he didn't run them long enough to trip that safety circuit, so we had no way to know that this one was going to have a safety issue. But it is what it is. So what I'm going to do, and I kind of already started prepping for it, is I put a cooler on top of my pool box here, which has some water in it from the fact that it's been sitting underneath a semi-broken drain for, I don't know, a day or two, and it rained a couple days ago. So I'm going to put a camera on this, and we're going to do a time lapse of them pulling this out, and I'm going to try to record as much as I can without getting in their face, but it should be pretty interesting. So, and we'll see. I don't know what kind of units the HVAC tech got us, but they're supposed to be a little bit more efficient. They're newer. Obviously they're brand new, but This one, because it's sort of over-spec'd on the heating side, we got a little bit of a reduced heating capacity, which is okay. I mean, currently this thing heats the house in about 3 minutes, just the lower level here. And the one thing about this lower level is it's kind of open. Outside of the bedrooms that are on this side, the other side is open from the wall over here all the way to the butt end of the garage. So it doesn't take much to circulate warm air. So we'll see. We'll see what this thing brings us. And we'll figure it out. For those that don't know what an ICE vehicle sounds like when it's driving away. That's it.
You good anyway? Anywhere you go, you're good. You're good.
So this unit was finally pulled out of the back. This is the one that was cooling the office as well as heating. But I wanted to point out, I just noticed this. This thing had some serious corrosion happening where these aluminum fins are just rubbing away. I have no idea what does something like this to aluminum, you know, but it's all over. I'm surprised that this never leaked, although I'm guessing that this is copper, which is what the refrigerant flows through, and it seems like that was a little bit more resilient to whatever was happening in the back. Getting it done. Project's taking shape. That's the new pad that the backyard unit's going to be sitting on. I think we'll have to level that out a little bit, but I think that'll do. I think we might need to put some foam or something under it to keep it level. And I still don't know about this slope. This might end up having to be a project that gets redone again in the future. Well, there's the evaporator coil from the attic. That actually was the other half of this system. She looks pretty clean. I don't know, I was expecting it to be more dirty. Looks good. Some surface rust right there. So this is the device that's going to sit up in the attic. It's not very big, if you use my hand as a reference. I'm guessing that's about 14 inches by, I don't know, 18 maybe. So, I don't know, that says 20 inches, I guess, for the box. I know. Kind of nice. About 4 feet tall. It looked like you're working in 6 inches of snow.
Yeah, when they blast the stuff under here,
Yeah.
they shot a lot of stuff in this pan.
Yeah.
We got to try to take it out. So they usually put a sensor in there. If the water starts coming out of this and going in the pan, it cut it off automatically.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Okay. See, when you put the insulation in here,
Yeah.
you throw it all in the pan. That car has it for the drain. When you got 2 drains, you know, one for the pan, and they ain't got nothing for the pan. They got one for the unit. But they're supposed to have a cutoff valve in here, so that when the water come up,
Yeah, it'll shut it off.
let you know. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today's another day, and we're going to close out this video by just showing you what these units actually look like. I know you saw in the time lapse of them being put in, but it got really dark, especially this one. We had a hard time with this guy. You wouldn't believe how heavy this is. It took 4 of us good effort to bring it in here, and as you can see, we ended up bringing rocks in as well, but it's not 100% complete. We weren't able to get the whips in, and also we need to figure out the thermostat wiring, so that's going to happen in a few weeks, but I'll try to do my best, and I'll put some plastic around it to prevent it from getting water in there if it rains. But this guy, in terms of capacity, in terms of cooling, it's I think it's a ton more. So it's 3 tons instead of 2 tons. And then in terms of heating, it's 96,000 BTUs instead of 100,000 BTUs because, well, it was literally just a price war between the one that was the same spec and this one. So we just opted for this one because it was significantly less. Okay, so that takes care of that one. It works. It took a long time to get it wired in. I think the tech was here until probably about 11:30 last night, so it was a decent 12-hour day for him to get both of these systems put in. And then this one, I'll show you real quick. This one here is the one they put in for the office. This one as well, I think, is either a half-ton or a ton capacity larger. But what's great about this one, totally silent. You no longer hear it inside. So if we're sleeping or whatever, because our master bedroom's over here. If we're sleeping, this no longer wakes us up or jars us awake. And this one too. This one's actually pretty quiet. You hear the fan noise, from the the condenser fan, and this one as well. But it's like just blowing. It's at that frequency where it's not. How do I explain this? It's not the compressor that's like growling away. It's just a smooth fan noise. So both of these systems we're happy with. I just sent the guy his second half of the payment, so the project's closed out. He's going to come back. He's got an IOU with me for the cables, and he's also going to run a new thermostat wire at some point into the house when he comes back. So yeah, that's it. This guy heats and cools. This guy's a heat pump too, so haven't used the heater yet for the office, and I'm probably not going to use the heater just because of the fact that the equipment rack generates so much heat. But I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. As always, go down in the comments below, leave us a thumbs up, feel free to subscribe, and until next time, thank you very much for watching.